Hey everybody, my name is Trey Cockrum, and welcome to another YouTube video. In this one, I am talking about sort of business, life, and marriage. And I'm only 7 months into having been married. I got married in September 22nd of 2022. There's a lot of twos. And so my wife is right here. I'm just talking about like the lessons I've learned in regards to balancing. Here, my wife wanted to come say hey. So she's going to say hi, just real quick.
Hey.
And that's all she wanted to say.
Yep, that's it.
All right, cool. So thank you, babe.
Yeah, love you.
So anyway, yeah, it's I might have to cut this video in half because I've got a team meeting here coming up shortly. But really, guys, I think there's a lot going on to this subject. Now, my wife and I are going to do a podcast at some point. If you want me to do that and have a long form conversation where you guys can actually just tell us your questions and everything, we'll do that. Then I really want to do that. The thing is, we just haven't found the time to really sit down and have the right conversation. It's just like a big thing for us to do, and we want to do it the right way. So let me start with why I got married. And this is a really big topic. There is a lot of messaging in our culture right now, especially for men, especially for young men, in regards to what marriage and the role of marriage is and everything. And so let me be very clear and very pointed. I think that men who prey on women and see women as something to conquer are boys. I do not see them as men. I think they are boys. The next thing, I think that marriage is a holy gift from God given to man to bring the love of God and bring Christ down to earth so you can practice loving your spouse in the same way that Christ loved the church. We are the bride of Christ. Christ is our husband, for lack of a better term, and in this way you can practice selfless love. Even if you're not a Christian, you can at least appreciate practicing selfless love and loving somebody unconditionally. And it's really difficult. And when you get married, you realize how selfish you really are. And if there's anything I've learned in being married, it's just how deeply selfish and conceited I really am. So I've learned a lot about myself. And the business has fluctuated because of it. Since getting married, the business has fluctuated. I've been going through so much spiritual growth, and so many things have been changing in my core character that it's been at times very difficult to have the sort of focus necessary to grow my company. But it's very worth it in the long term. That's what people don't think about. They don't think about the long term. They think about, in our culture, they think about, how many women can I get in a single weekend? You know what I mean? I've got buddies of mine who succeed at the level that I do or further, and they have questioned my decision to get married, which makes it's wild to me. So I see men that see women as a conquerable thing, as something to like flex as boys. They are boys. They will never understand what women are actually supposed to be on a spiritual level. My wife and I, we both got these tattoos at the same time. So we weren't married at the time. But mine is some words in Hebrew. She's got a word in Hebrew as well. And the word that she has on her wrist is, and she's going to show it. Show it, babe. Just pop it around.
I'm doing laundry in the other room and just listening to him.
So there you go. But the word, yeah, I'll talk about mine at some point, I guess. But her word, can I hold your arm like this?
Yeah.
Her word is the word etzer. And it's either Greek or Hebrew. Which is it?
It's Hebrew.
Hebrew. In Hebrew, because it's Hebrew. We both got Hebrew tattoos. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew. Okay, so the Old Testament's the first half of the Bible, basically. And etzer is a word that is used to represent like a helper or a guiding life force, really. And the only times where it's used is when God introduces Eve to the garden. No, I know, I'm gonna say that too. And it's also used when God comes as a savior role in a certain environment, right? Like, so God actually steps in and does something very necessary for a group of people. God is then in that moment the etzer, I think is a bit how it'd be. And so the point is, woman is actually something that God gifted to men and gifted to man to be a guiding life force. And what does that really mean? Well, I think, and this is my personal view of it, that we all can agree that women have inherent value. Like, life is, as a man, you have to make yourself, right? As a woman, you've got a lot of inherent value, and it's designed that way because women are a gift. Women are the deepest gift that God has given us as men, and our job is to cultivate them, bring them life, bring them peace, bring them joy, create an environment for them. And biblically and scripturally, and not just biblically and scripturally, even if you're not a Christian, the best way to do that is with one person. Because you can't really know who you are with many. This is my honest opinion. You've got a lot of other religious beliefs that say you can have many, many wives, or many sexual partners. My wife's been my only sexual partner. I have not had sex with a single person other than my wife. We've both had opportunities to, but we both wanted to wait for this, okay? So that's why I got married, is because it's the one of the only true processes of holy sanctification. Now, do I want to succeed massively in business? Yes. Do I want to make a ton of money? Yeah. Do I want to be influential? 100%. But more than anything, I want to know God, and I want to know myself through my wife and know God through my wife. And through practicing selfless love, you are forcing yourself to put your fleshly desires, your biological encoded desires, the culture's message of what you should want aside and pursue selfless love. It's through selfless love alone that you can discover truth. Meaning very philosophical, but that's why I got married. Do I love my wife? Absolutely. But I also love the idea of being a married man. And this is where a lot of people get very confused. They think they have to be deeply in love with somebody in order to marry them. What if they're the perfect person in order to marry them? It's not true. It's also not true you have to wait forever to get married. It's not true. You don't have to build yourself up, wait till you're 35, make sure you're ripped and have a ton of money before you get married. I heard so many of those messages, and God, it was so hard to see through some of that stuff. At the end of the day, woman is a gift to man. And through loving a woman selflessly, you can practice a spiritual force of self-sacrifice and service of one another and service to somebody else. I'm going to pause the video right here. I'm going to hop on a team meeting. I'm going to continue it right after.
I think on the sales team front, I think we did a phenomenal job. I really do. Like, looking at how the team performed, I think on the sales front, over the last 10 days or so, this was the best 10-day period that we've had as a sales team so far. So,
yep. All right, so back to the video. We have a weekly team meeting, and I wanted to do that. So I think I explained pretty well why I decided to get married. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to let me know. And maybe, when my wife and I do our podcast, I'll do that as well. But yeah, that's why I decided to get married. And now I want to talk about, how I'm actually kind of balancing all these forces. Because, I think in a spiritual sense, in a sort of a higher level sense, your job is, if you want to create something, if you want to create your life in a certain way, you don't want to be a result of your circumstances, but you really want to control your circumstances and create them. You have to, in your own head and heart, find ways in which all components of your life serve the end, right? The end goal, whatever it may be. You have to find ways to interlink these things and take these forces of your life and work them together. So I got this comment recently on Instagram. Maybe an editor can show the comment or something like that. But the comment basically said, like, how do you balance it all? How do you balance her and work? And I'll just read off my response to this comment. So I said it right here, and it was actually 5 weeks ago. This has been a second, but, basically this person asks, I believe that what you're saying is true about, getting married and everything, but just how do I balance, family and my work and everything? And I said to them that balance is a lie. So balance is a lie that's been sold to you by our culture. Balance, there was no such thing as work-life balance until really the industrial age, when corporate America and corporate entities started to try and find ways to psychologically basically manipulate people into thinking that selling 50 hours a week to some organization and then going back home and living basically a double life was how you should do things. That's my personal belief. You can contest that belief, but that's what I believe. And so really balance is a lie. What existed for humans long before the concept of balance existed was the concept of integration. You find ways to take, it's almost like you can imagine your wife, your business, your fitness, your faith, your friendships, your responsibilities, whatever it is, all these forces, and find ways like an artist to put them together in a way that benefits an end. And so it's almost like you start with, blank colors like blue, green, yellow, red, whatever, and you can make a painting. It's the same thing with your life. Like, you have these blank colors, you have these blank materials, these raw materials, and like an alchemist, you can create something out of them. And that's how I see getting married, is that it's not like something that I do, and then when I'm done with that, I go and I work, and when I'm done with that, I go and I... Now, there's some level to it, some truth to that, like, and you can ignore this. This was for my team meeting. There's maybe some areas where my marriage and my work don't overlap. Like, let's say this is work and this is marriage. but for the most part, it's actually pretty well integrated. You know what I mean? Like I talk to her about my business, and she even helps me with like who to hire. She's got great intuition in regards to who to hire, and so I think this maybe comes back to maybe the question for a lot of people would be like, okay, how do I find a woman who is like worth marrying, and how do I find a woman who's like actually like a good marriage material? My first piece of advice is to be honest. Here's my extremist end of things. Unless you're a Christian or you're religious, you shouldn't get married. It doesn't make any sense for an atheist in their thinking, or for somebody who's maybe more materialist in their worldview. Marriage actually makes no sense. And so if I weren't a God-fearing Christian, I wouldn't have gotten married. That's for sure, because the obligation of it, in a spirit, from a physical perspective purely, makes almost no sense. It's a ton of work, and it's all these problems and whatever. And if they divorce you, they take half your stuff and whatever. And that's the message that a lot of people have. And it's so frustrating that we're not distincting between the different types of marriage. Really, these different types of marriages, like there's the proper actual way of getting married, which is a holy matrimony between two individuals who are dying to themselves to serve each other for the rest of their lives. That's the only purpose of marriage. And we've taken marriage, we've made it this thing, that anybody can do with anybody they want to do whenever they want to do it, which, I believe in free will. You can do what you want to do. I'm not going to judge you for that. But marriage itself was designed for one sole purpose, and that's to join a man and a woman in holy matrimony. And that's its sole purpose. And so when you do marriage that way, and you see it as a dying itself and as a way to bring God's love down to earth, then it's really hard to lose. But pretty much any other way of viewing marriage is pretty much pointless. Like it's just a showing of your love, or it's like a bigger commitment to each other, or these things. And so, of course, it's not going to work, because, like, that's a dumb reason to get married. You're an idiot if you're going to get married for one of those reasons. Like, oh, we live together, we might as well get married. Like, this is so dumb. So, of course, that's a really dumb thing to do. So how do you find a woman who's worth marrying? In my opinion, you can't find them unless you are religious. I just don't believe that you can. I don't believe that there are many women worth marrying who don't believe who don't believe in a living God. I just don't think that person exists. And it sounds extreme to some people, but it's what I honestly believe. Because unfortunately, a lot of the, not just the Western messages, but even the global messages for a lot of women, people tend to attack Western culture, but really global culture for women right now is that of one that just really doesn't benefit a marriage environment, okay? Unfortunately. And so, but I've found that a lot of churches and a lot of church bodies still have a good view of what a man's role is and what a woman's role is. And they don't just accept it legalistically. They celebrate it, and they're excited for men to be men and for women to be women. Women to be this feminine, beautiful, healing sort of an energy and presence, and to be really that etzer, that voice of God that is here to save and here to serve, while the man is here to be that unchanging, stable, powerful force in that woman's life, and to bring life into her and to serve her with that. And I think that there's very few communities that really celebrate that, like the church. And so I think a lot of marriage has died, a lot of the purpose of marriage has died with the dying of the church. And some of you are going to say, wow, Trey, I love your traditional values. I love how traditional you are. I would argue that these aren't traditional values. These are just freaking values, right? This is just how the world works, and we've lost sight of it so quickly in light of their values. It's an oxymoron. There are no other values. And so, you can contest with me in the comments if you want to. You can disagree with me, but this is really hard to find a woman worth marrying. It's just really hard, because they, in the back of their head, if even the thought is entertained that maybe there's another man for me, maybe I could just cheat once, or maybe I could, fall out of line and kind of why we're doing this and forget the mission behind it all, and I can just, live loose, or whatever it is, all these damaging messages, if that even sits in the back of your woman's mind, then odds are you're going to have to fight that demon with her one day, and that's going to suck your energy. So you need to find a woman who is excited to be married to a strong man and to serve that strong man, and you need to be a man who's excited to serve her. This is where we lose the message. A lot of the red pill manosphere stuff is like, be a strong man, keep her in your frame, she'll serve you, and you just stay on your mission. Sure, there's some truth to that, I think a little bit, but I think you also have to be willing to serve your wife. Like, if she needs something from me, we have a rule in my house where, and I've enacted this rule, where if she needs me anytime, she can come to me and say, hey, Trey, I just need you right now. I just need Trey. And I can turn off work brain, I can turn off anything else, and I'll just be there with her. And she doesn't use that card very often because she respects me and because she understands if she's on the same mission. It's not like she is just like living some separate like homemaker life where all she does is just cook and clean and have no value, no voice in my house. That's not true. She's her own person. So it's very interesting how, you know, people see this as like two extremes. You're either totally equal or she's a submissive, quiet housewife and has no value. Like there's you know, people pull it to two extremes, and I don't know. It's just silly to me. I know I'm going a bit of a rant, but I think it's an important rant because that's not how I view her, and it's not how women should be viewed. Like, women are a precious gift. They are, you know, they're valuable inherently. They have inherent value, and like you can almost envy it as a man. Like, just imagine being born with like inherent value. And so some men get like frustrated at that or whatever. You just gotta lean into it. Like, at the end of the day, it is how it is. And I love my wife. So that is a little bit of my summary on like the philosophy of like how to find a woman who's worth marrying. If you are a Christian and you believe in the God of the Bible and you believe in Christ as your Savior, then just go to church. I met her through a Bible study. Really simple. And I saw her across the room. I was like, this is the one I want to marry, that's for sure. And I was just like, I knew like that night, like I went home and I prayed on it and I thought about it. And I really thought about it from a real place. And I was like, could I see this person being my wife? And now I only had a certain view of her, and now we had to go through premarital counseling and a lot of other support systems to really ensure that we were making it a good decision. But once we went to premarital counseling and once we worked through some stuff, like, it's been great. And we have fights. Like, every couple has fights. We have massive disagreements. We have areas where we just don't see the same. But that's like, again, you get to practice selfless love. Like, to me, that's the highest value is to be able to give. There's a really good book, Way of the Superior Man by David Data. In that book, he talks about how the greatest gift that you can give to the world as a man is just your unfiltered presence and that selfless, just like, I'm here for you, whatever you want. And, you know, young boys, fathers to young boys, where the father gives that boy that unfiltered, I'm all the way here with you right now presence, it's a gift, and that boy will cherish that forever. Like, I remember as a child, and my dad definitely gave me plenty of attention. Like, I have a great masculine figure in my life, but I remember the first time that I ever lucid dreamed, which is when you can control your dream. One of the things that I did first in that dream was I wanted my dad to come and play video games with me. that was my lucid dream, was I want my dad to come and play Madden 2006 with me on my PS2. Like, that's what I wanted. And I remember that. And really, your presence is a gift. So to your sons, to your daughters, to your wife, it's a gift. And so really, I don't believe that if you have many women in your life, if you have many, especially sexual relationships with many women, you're not giving them that gift. You might think you are, but I would argue that that's your pride talking, and that's your sexual selfish needs, which brings us back to the sexual revolution. Dear God, what a terrible thing for humanity, right? You go back to the 60s, 70s, and, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the feminist movement brought out a lot of, one of the cardinal sins of women is wanting to be like men. And one of the cardinal sins of men is passivity, right? Not so the only sin, but it's one of many. And so really wanting to be like men, or even having almost a certain amount of pride. And, you know, we hate this word sin, but the reality is sin just means you've missed a mark. So there's an actual target, an idea of how not God needs us to be in order for him to love us, because he loves us unconditionally, but really just calls us to be for our own good, right? It's not things that like you do this and you are punished. It's just like, this is how I set things up. Imagine being the father to some kids and being like, look, like, this is what I think is best for you, and I just think that you're going to be happier this way, and it's going to be really easy and really fun. Don't listen to this other stuff. Let's call this other stuff something. Let's call it sin. And that's basically what it is, right? And so the cardinal sin of women is to want to be like men and want to really have pride. And in the 60s, the sexual revolution especially, and continuing today, we celebrate women wanting to be like men. And now, am I at all against a woman in the workforce? Absolutely not. Like, if she wants to go and succeed in her career, she can go do that. Where I think that the problem is comparing yourself to men. If you want to do it for you, go do it for you. Like, I'm all about, like, some of my best friends when I was in high school and everything were like very ambitious women. And there's a lot of beauty to that. I think there's something really cool about it. But I also think that if they're doing it because they want to be like a man, there's going to be something in their future that's going to hurt them. They should be wanting to do it for themselves. But I digress, right? And so I can't really speak to that because I'm not a woman. But that's how I think. And so for my wife, you know, what do I think? What do I think that, I lost my train of thought. How do you find a woman worth marrying? Being in the church, man. You're gonna find plenty of marriage material. Like, we were at this coffee shop in Alabama. My wife and I were at this coffee shop, and I made this joke to her. I was like, so we were in this coffee shop, and I guess there's like a Christian college nearby, and there's a bunch of girls like lined up on this coffee table with their Bibles open, like joking with each other. And I'm like, man, like, this is great. Like, this is so good to see, and I love this. And I told the group, I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like, you guys are awesome. And so, I think that it's just hard to find wife material anywhere but the church. It just is. Like, I don't know why that's such a weird thing to say for some people, like, but it is. Because otherwise, they're going to be inundated with these negative messages about what it means to be a woman. Just like men are inundated with negative messages about what it means to be a man. I do not view myself as any more of a man because of my financial success or because of my career success. I do not think that I'm more or less of a man because of how much money I make. I don't think I'm more or less of a man because of how much influence I have. I don't think I'm more or less of a man because of how many women I've had sex with. I've only had sex with one woman. It's my wife. It's the only person I've ever had sex with, and I'm really proud of that, and it's going to stay that way to the day I freaking die. I get buried in the earth. I've had sex with one woman. It's my wife, my beautiful, lovely, beloved wife. That's the only person, okay? But we're inundated with, like, messages of what it means to be a man. Like, look at, like, Andrew Tate or, like, any of these people. It's like the only thing that matters for men is, like, status, wealth, influence, women, and, like, somehow that makes you more of a man. That's boyish. That's boyish behavior. Am I after financial success? Absolutely. But for my own means. It doesn't, if I don't succeed, it doesn't, like, make me feel like I'm not a man. I still feel like a man. I'm still a freaking man because I have my values. The principles in which you live by, the integrity that you have, the value system that you abide by as a man, that defines your manhood. The fruits of that value system and everything is great, and you should enjoy those fruits, but it's the value system behind it. So financial success follows, a lot of the core principles of manhood. That's absolute, that's for sure. But it's not the fruit in of itself that makes the man. It's the trunk, it's the branches, it's the roots, it's the root systems of values. Are they living by them, or are they not? Now, sometimes, because of the nasty weather and the environment somebody's in, they can have the values of a high-quality man or individual, but the fruit doesn't show. That's your environment. You might have to change your environment. I had these values growing up from a very young age, but I didn't have a conducive environment. Like, I was in my parents' basement. I had to leave, or I had friends in my environment that weren't serving me. So just because you have the roots, you have the trunk, you have the branches, doesn't mean that the sun's shining or you're getting enough water. But it is the trunk, roots, and branches that make a man, okay? And so I want you to understand that this is how I see things, and this is why I've gotten married. And now, to talk a little bit more about balance, because I feel like I haven't really hit that enough, you just have to integrate everything. Like, my wife is sold on my mission as a man. She's sold on it. She wants to be a part of it. So to finish off reading this comics, I feel like I never even finished this. I've gone on with so many rants here. I said balance is a lot. You got to find a way to integrate everything. For example, instead of balancing my marriage and my work, I've found ways where both can benefit both. For example, I love having my wife interact with key clients and be at our mastermind events. She takes the photos, helps arrange the details, etc. And she also enjoys helping me pick talent. She's got intuition regarding people. And on the flip side, in order I have to really sell her on my work and help her get excited about the work itself. Sharing with her my mission, my why, and buying her into the vision. You can't spin many plates. This is a lie. Find ways to integrate everything. You really can't spin more than maybe like 2 plates. Okay, maybe at best. If you're trying to do more than 2 things in a good way, you're probably not going to do it. Because even that quote, like, a man who chases many rabbits catches none, right? Like, many includes 2. You can't catch 2. So you have to have one sort of singular vision for your life that your marriage and your business and everything falls into. And this is, again, where I get back into my religious beliefs. One of my goals is that when I die, God says, well done, good and faithful servant, right? Like, I served him, I served my wife, I served my team, my company, my clients, I served my community, the people that I influence. I lived to serve, and I served till the day that I died, and then I died having had sex with one woman and having had served. And, like, that's what I want. And I want well done, good and faithful servant. And so that's the core, that's the core mission here. And I like to think that if I check my heart, that if God called me to something other than business and said, look, Trey, you're not going to have any financial means, you're going to do something completely different, that I would go and do it. But I've had this call on my heart since I was like 17, since my family went through this house fire. I saw what it really looked like. Like, okay, my dad, successful as he is, I can't just sit around. I can't just be like this passive, like living in a shadow. I have to become my own man. Okay, much time left on the camera. My SD card is completely full, but that's my message. Integrate everything. It's not your wife and your business and your other things. It's what's your singular core mission, and then work backwards from all those things and bring your wife into and include them, and bring your family into and include them in a special way. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. My SD card is full. I'll see you. It's already recording. It's been recording. I just have been distracted. I don't know. I've just been distracted from doing other stuff. No, so I'll just cut it. Or I'll leave that in.
You don't have to cut it.
No, maybe I'll leave that in.
Work for you.
It's not that much work. I've got a whole team that runs the whole business. I can sit here and make YouTube videos. All right, I'll do this. I'll be like, hey everybody, my name's Trey Cockrum. In today's video, I want to talk about like lessons I'm learning in regards to like balancing sort of life and business and being married, especially as a Christian entrepreneur. You know, like I see that marriage is like a holy thing. It's something I really wanted to do. There's a lot of challenges that come with that. I just want to talk about that. So this is my wife, Lily. Like, you say, hey. And I just like, I don't know, I just think it'd be cute for you to just like pop in and be like, hi. You know? And you can say something if you want to say something. Man. You can say whatever you want to say.
We're going to do a whole podcast or whatever some other time about the both of us.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I think for this, you just kind of have to pop in and say what's up. I think people I just need to prove that my wife exists, really. That you're real, you know, that you're not a figment of my imagination.
Ow, my knee. Okay.
That you are actually my wife, and that you can talk, and you're a person.
Do you even want to keep this shirt? It's from that show.
And that you're not just, you know, a cute face that you put on Instagram to get more comments.
Do you want this?
No. Alright, I'm gonna do it. Hey everybody, my name is Trey Cockrum, and welcome to another YouTube video. And this one, I